A cryptic letter lures Hercule Poirot to Blackthorn Manor, where shadows of a cursed Cairo dig awaken deadly secrets. Who sent the glowing cipher threatening jewels to dust? Why does the Ouroboros amulet haunt every guest? As poison taints the wine and locked rooms hide betrayals, Poirot's gray cells face their ultimate test. Can he unravel a decades-old murder before the mastermind strikes again? Or will the serpent's coil claim them all? Chapter 1. The Enigmatic Invitation. Hercule Poirot adjusted his impeccably waxed mustache in the reflection of the train window, his little gray cells humming with anticipation. The English countryside blurred past like a watercolor painting smudged by rain, but his mind was sharp, focused on the peculiar letter clutched in his gloved hand. It had arrived at his London flat 2 days prior, sealed with an unfamiliar crest, a coiled serpent devouring its tail, etched in crimson wax. The handwriting was elegant, almost too precise, as if scripted by a machine rather than a human soul. "Dear Monsieur Poirot," it read, "your reputation as the world's foremost detective precedes you. I beseech you to grace Blackthorn Manor with your presence this weekend. A matter of utmost urgency awaits, one that only your unparalleled intellect can unravel. Discretion is paramount. Lives hang in the balance. Yours in desperation, E. Blackwood. No return address, no further details." Poirot had debated ignoring it. Such summons often led to trifles disguised as tragedies. But the serpent emblem intrigued him. It whispered of ancient myths, of Ouroboros and eternal cycles, perhaps symbolizing a grudge that refused to die. And so, here he was, alighting at a fog-shrouded station in the heart of Devon, where a chauffeured Bentley awaited like a silent sentinel. The drive to Blackthorn Manor wound through twisting lanes flanked by gnarled oaks, their branches clawing at the sky like arthritic fingers. As the car crested a hill, the manor emerged, a Gothic behemoth of weathered stone, its turrets piercing the twilight like accusatory, their faces a mosaic of curiosity and wariness. At the head stood Elias Blackwood, a tall man in his 50s with a mane of silver hair and eyes like polished obsidian. "Monsieur Poirot, what an honor. Your presence elevates this humble gathering." Poirot bowed slightly. "The honor is mine, Monsieur Blackwood. But pray, what is this matter of utmost urgency that demands my little gray cells?" Blackwood's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, a crack in his polished facade. "All in due time. First, allow me to introduce our company." He gestured to a voluptuous woman in an emerald gown, her neck dripping with emeralds that caught the firelight like trapped stars. "Lady Vivian Harlow, renowned opera singer and my dear cousin." Lady Harlow inclined her head, her voice a sultry melody. "Charmed, detective. I've heard tales of your exploits, solving murders with nothing but a glance. Do demonstrate on me. What secrets do I hide?" Poirot chuckled softly. "Ah, madame, a gentleman never reveals a lady's secrets without invitation. But your voice, it carries the timbre of La Scala, no? Yet, your hands betray a recent tremor, perhaps from a passionate aria, or something more fraught." Her laughter rang out, but her eyes narrowed. Next was Dr. Reginald Thorne, a bespectacled academic with a beard like a bird's nest. "Historian and mythologist," Blackwood explained. "Specialist in ancient symbols." Thorne grunted, adjusting his glasses. "The Ouroboros on your invitation, Poirot. Fascinating, isn't it? Eternity, rebirth, or a warning of cycles unbroken." Poirot's interest piqued. Indeed, Doctor. One wonders if our host chose it deliberately. Blackwood waved it off. Mere family heraldry. He moved on to a burly man with a scarred cheek and a military bearing. Colonel Marcus Flint, retired from the Indian campaigns. A man of action, Blackwood said. Flint saluted mockingly. Heard you're a thinker, Poirot. Me? I prefer a good scrap. But Blackwood, side table. A single black leather glove, abandoned amid crystal decanters. It was out of place, too fine for a servant, too masculine for Lady Harlow. He pocketed it discreetly, his mind whirring. The dinner was a feast of roasted pheasant and vintage Bordeaux. But the conversation simmered with undercurrents. Whispers of old grudges floated like smoke. Lady Harlow's bitter rivalry with a forgotten diva. Thorne's disputed claim to a lost artifact. Flint's wartime betrayal by a comrade. Rousseau spoke little, but his gaze lingered on the manor's priceless paintings. Miss Croft probed relentlessly, her questions like darts. Madame Grimshaw muttered incantations, claiming visions of impending doom. Poirot observed it all, sipping his wine. Monsieur Blackwood, he interjected during a lull. This gathering, it is not random, we. Each guest shares a thread with the past, perhaps with you. Blackwood's fork paused mid-air. Astute as ever. Yes, we are all linked by events from decades ago. A shared incident in Cairo during the war. But tonight is for reconnection, not excavation. Flint snorted. Reconnection? More like reckoning. That serpent on the invite. It's from the Cairo affair, isn't it? The cursed amulet we all chased. Thorne leaned forward. The Ouroboros amulet, said to grant eternal life, but it brought only death. Blackwood, you promised resolution. The room tensed. Lady Harlow's hand trembled on her glass. Enough! We're here because of the threats, the anonymous letters we've all received. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Letters? Similar to mine? Blackwood sighed. Yes, someone knows our secrets from Cairo and threatens exposure. Or worse. That's why I summoned you, Poirot. To unmask the blackmailer before catastrophe strikes. A murmur rippled through the group. Draft for my insomnia. The journey here was exhausting. Poirot's eyes, sharp as a falcon's, bore into him. Insomnia, monsieur. Yet you conceal it in a hidden pocket, like a thief's tool. And this sedative, odorless, tasteless, could easily slip into a glass unnoticed. In Cairo, during that shared incident you all whisper of, was there not a similar ploy? A drowsy guard, a vanished artifact. Elias Blackwood rose, his silver hair catching the candlelight like frost on a blade. Enough accusations for now, Poirot. Rousseau, explain yourself properly, or I'll have Hargrove escort you out. Rousseau slumped, wiping sweat from his brow. Very well. The threats, the letters, they've kept me awake. I brought it for protection, to drug an intruder if needed. Foolish perhaps, but not malicious. Lady Vivian Harlow arched an eyebrow, her emeralds glinting mockingly. Protection. Darling, in this company we'd all need arsenals. Those Cairo ghosts haunt us all. Poirot set the vial down gently. For now we accept your word, Monsieur Rousseau. But the little gray cells, they do not sleep. Let us resume our meal. Suspicion is a poor digestif. The tension eased marginally as Hargrove refilled glasses, but the air remained charged, like the calm before a thunderstorm. As poached pears were served, Miss Eliza Croft, the journalist, leaned forward, her red hair aflame in the glow. Since we're airing skeletons, why not share our brushes with mystery? Poirot, you've solved hundreds. Surely you've encountered echoes of Agatha Christie's tales in real life. Poirot smiled faintly, dabbing his lips with a napkin. Ah, mademoiselle, life imitates art, and art imitates the human heart's darkest corners. Madame Christie, she understood the psychology of crime. Pray, share your away. Poirot's mustache quivered with interest. Forged alibis, Colonel? A common thread in mysteries. Tell me more of this inspection. You were a military police inspector, no? Flint nodded gruffly. Retired now, but I served in the provost marshal's office. That case hardened me, taught me no one's word is ironclad. The group murmured, connections sparking like flint on steel. Lady Harlow sipped her brandy. My turn. On tour in Milan, 35, a rival soprano died mid-aria, strangled by her own necklace during a blackout. And then there were none, isolating suspects on stage. I suspected the understudy. She had motive. Hired a detective. Turned out, faulty clasp, accidental. But the scandal ruined her career anyway. Victor Rousseau, recovering his composure, chimed in hesitantly. In Vienna, auctioning a Rembrandt. A bidder collapsed. Heart attack, they said. But I noticed the catalog poisoned with arsenic on the edges. Christie pure, slow absorption. The forger behind it wanted the painting cheap. I alerted authorities. He was caught mid-flight. Miss Croft scribbled furiously. Fascinating. Mine's recent. Last year, covering a society wedding in the Cotswolds. Groom vanished from a locked bridal suite, a la The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Found him in the attic, hiding from debts. His best man forged the disappearance note to collect insurance. I broke the story. Front page glory. Blackwood listened intently, his obsidian eyes scanning faces. And I? In Cairo, that fateful dig. We were all there, chasing the Ouroboros amulet. A curse, they said, like Christie's Egyptian tales. Our guide died in a sandstorm, trapped in a tomb. We blamed fate, but whispers of sabotage lingered. That's why the threats now. Someone knows it wasn't natural. Poirot leaned back, steepling his fingers. Intriguing tales all. Each echoes Madame Christie's genius. Poison. Alibi was tweaked. I was elsewhere, meeting a contact for the amulet's true value. Harmless white lie to protect the group. But it wasn't me who killed the guide. Poirot nodded sagely. Ah, the truth emerges. A forged alibi from years ago, lingering like a shadow. It explains the vendettas, the threats target those with hidden deceptions. Blackwood intervened, his voice commanding. Enough, Colonel. Your confession clears the air. For tonight, we're all flawed. Let's truce over cognac. Poirot, your insight is invaluable. Flint grumbled but nodded, the group exhaling collectively. Hargrove served digestives and conversation shifted to lighter fare. Harlow's upcoming recital, Thorne's latest book. A tense peace settled, like a ceasefire in a long-standing war. As the evening wound down, guests retired, but Poirot lingered by the fire, his mind a whirlwind. The forged alibi was exposed, mending a fracture in the group's facade, yet unresolved grudges simmered beneath. Who among them harbored deeper secrets from Cairo? The shadows of the past stretched long, promising more revelations in the manor's echoing halls. In his chamber, Poirot locked the door, reflecting on the night's harvest. A minor victory. Truth pried loose. But the greater clash loomed, vendettas uncoiling like the serpent on the crest. For now, the evening ended in wary accord, a satisfying pause in the symphony of suspicion. Chapter 3. The Midnight Cipher. The clock in Blackthorn Manor's grand hall struck midnight with a resonant gong that echoed through the corridors like a summons from the grave. Hercule Poirot, ensconced in his velvet-draped chamber, had not yet succumbed to sleep. His little gray cells buzzed with the revelations of the evening. The forged alibi of Colonel Flint, the veiled threats from Cairo's shadowed past. He paced before the window, gazing at the moonlit cliffs where waves crashed like accusations against the shore. A soft knock disrupted his reverie. Written in a phosphorescent substance that pulsed faintly, it read, XQVKZUGJLPFRYHBMNC WTDOSVIEQAUF RBGLNHZJMCKP. Decode the serpent's coil, or jewels turn to dust at dawn. Blackwood ran a hand through his silver hair. It wasn't here an hour ago. Hargrove swears the room was empty. Someone among us, or a ghost, did this. Madame Grimshaw waved her cane. Not a ghost, but close. The spirits channel through the living. This cipher, it's a warning from beyond. Flint snorted, holstering his weapon. Balderdash. It's a code, plain and simple. Military ciphers were my bread and butter. Looks like a substitution. Each letter shifted. Thorne peered closely, his beard nearly brushing the wall. Substitution, yes, but layered. Notice the groupings. 3-letter clusters. And serpent's coil echoes the Ouroboros again. Perhaps a visionaire key tied to mythology. Miss Croft snapped a photograph with a hidden camera, her journalist's instinct unyielding. This could be front page. But what jewels? Blackwood, you have a collection? Their host hesitated. Family heirlooms, locked away. Nothing extravagant. Poirot stepped forward, his compact frame commanding the room. Mes amis, speculation is the thief of time. Allow Hercule Poirot to apply order and method. First, the medium, this ink. Phosphorescent, oui? Like foxfire in the woods, but artificial. Likely strontium aluminate, activated by light. The writer needed access to chemicals, perhaps from the Manor's laboratory. Rousseau shifted uncomfortably. Ideal in art restoratives. Some glow under black light, but I swear. Peace, monsieur. Poirot interjected. Accusations later. Now, the cipher. Colonel, your military eye. Attempt a Caesar shift. Flint scribbled on a notepad, mutter, non-count, 12 triads. Chapter 4. Whispers in the Garden. The morning sun bathed Blackthorn Manor's gardens in a golden haze, transforming the dew-kissed lawns into a glittering tapestry. Hercule Poirot strolled along the pebble paths, his cane tapping rhythmically against the stones like a metronome for his thoughts. The events of the midnight cipher lingered in his mind. The decoded threat, the disarmed acid device, the jewels safeguarded. Yet the perpetrator's identity danced just beyond reach, a phantom in the fog of suspicions. The guests had agreed to a garden brunch, ostensibly to dispel the night's shadows with fresh air and croissants. But Poirot sensed undercurrents swirling beneath the civility. Roses bloomed in riotous profusion, their petals unfurling like secrets whispered to the breeze. Topiaries shaped as mythical beasts guarded the borders, and a central fountain burbled melodies that masked softer sounds. Elias Blackwood had orchestrated the gathering with his usual flair. Tables laden with silver teapots, delicate china, and an array of pastries that tempted even Poirot's disciplined palate. The host moved among the guests like a conductor, his silver hair catching the light. "Monsieur Poirot," Blackwood called, approaching with a steaming cup. "A tisane for your gray cells? Herbal, no caffeine to agitate the genius." Poirot accepted with a nod. "Merci, but agitation is the spark of deduction. Last night's cipher, was it a jest or a genuine peril?" Blackwood's eyes flickered toward the manor. "Genuine, I fear. The safe's contents are irreplaceable. Family legacy from Cairo. But thanks to you, they're secure." As they conversed, Poirot's gaze wandered. Lady Vivian Harlow, the opera diva, held court near a trellis of climbing vines, her emerald gown a vivid splash against the greenery. She laughed melodiously at something Colonel Marcus Flint said, though the military man's scarred face betrayed a forced grin. "Unfamiliar. Risky, Eliza." Poirot sniffing around. "Last night's cipher nearly blew it. Had to improvise after you botched the ink mix." Poirot's pulse quickened. The shadowy figure, a man, cloaked in a gardener's smock, face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. Not one of the guests. An outsider? Or a disguise? Croft's tone sharpened. "You promised anonymity. Blackwood's hoarding what's rightfully mine, my mother's share from Cairo. Hand over the vial. I'll spike Harlow's tea." She suspects too much after Flint's confession. The man chuckled darkly. "Harlow? She's a pawn. Here's the stuff, odorless, acts in minutes. Make it look like a heart flutter. Her dramatics will sell it. A rustle, exchange of hands." Poirot's mind raced. Intervention now, or gather more? But poison in play demanded action. He stepped forward, cane raised like a scepter. "Bonjour, Mademoiselle Croft, and your horticultural companion. Might I join this tete-a-tete?" Croft whirled, her face blanching. The man bolted, but Poirot's voice halted him. "Halt, monsieur, or shall I summon the colonel? His pistol is ever ready." The figure froze, then turned slowly. Removing the hat revealed a young face, acne-scarred, with nervous eyes. Hardly a mastermind. "Who are you?" Poirot smiled thinly. "Hercule Poirot, at your service. And you? The cipher's scribe, perhaps?" Croft clutched the vial, her journalist's poise shattered. "Poirot, this isn't. It's a misunderstanding." "No, mademoiselle. I overheard enough. The jewels, the plan, the poison. Your mother's share. Elaborate." She deflated, sinking onto a bench amid the roses. The man, introduced as Jem Hargrove, the butler's nephew and occasional groundskeeper, stood sullenly. "Auntie Ophelia's in on it too?" "No, just me," Jem muttered. Under Poirot's unyielding gaze, Croft confessed. "My mother was Blackwood's sister, cut from the will after Cairo. She died." Proceeded. Laughter over croissants. Debates on horticulture. But Poirot watched Croft pour tea for Harlow. His intervention subtle. He accidentally bumped the table, spilling the suspect cup. "Clumsy me," he apologized, signaling Hargrove for fresh brew. Harlow, none the wiser, sipped anew. As the gathering wound down, Poirot pulled Blackwood aside near the fountain. "A word, monsieur. Your journalist guest and the groundskeeper, they conspired. The cipher was theirs, aimed at your safe, poison averted." Blackwood's face hardened. "Eliza? My niece. I suspected her grudge, but not this." And Jem fired immediately. Poirot raised a hand. "She confesses under pressure. A minor player driven by inheritance woes." Jem, too. Greed, not genius. The garden whispers cease for now. The host exhaled. "Thank you, Poirot. Relief washes over me like this fountain spray." The party dispersed amid blooming serenity, guests praising the respite. Croft and Jem were detained quietly by Flint, confessions noted. Yet Poirot pondered. Their scheme felt amateurish, a diversion. The true mastermind lurked, garden whispers hinting at deeper roots. As sunlight waned, the manor stood tranquil, a chapter closed in fragile peace, a satisfying bloom amid thorns. Chapter 5. The Locked Room Riddle. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Blackthorn Manor's oak-paneled corridors, painting the air with an amber glow that seemed to hold secrets in its warmth. Hercule Poirot sat in the library, his fingers tracing the spine of a dusty tome on cryptography, his mind dissecting the morning's revelations. The garden plot, Miss Eliza Croft and Jem Hargrove's clumsy scheme to steal the Blackwood jewels, had been thwarted, their confessions securing a fragile calm. Yet Poirot's little gray cells churned, unconvinced that the conspiracy ended with such small players. The Ouroboros motif, the threats from Mon Dieu, we must enter. Colonel, your strength. Flint shouldered the door, Wood groaning but holding fast. Solid as a bunker. We'll need a ram. Madame Ophelia Grimshaw shuffled forward, her raven cane tapping. The spirits warn of treachery sealed within. Break it, or doom festers. Victor Russo, lingering at the rear, muttered, "This feels staged, like one of Christie's locked room conundrums." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Précisément, monsieur. But Hercule Poirot unravels all locks, physical or otherwise. Hargrove, fetch a crowbar. And you, Madame Grimshaw, any visions of how Dr. Thorne came to this?" She closed her eyes, swaying. A shadow struck, a blow unseen. The room guards its secret like a tomb. The crowbar arrived, and Flint pried the door open with a splintering crack. They spilled inside, finding Thorne sprawled beside a mahogany desk, a faint pulse beneath Poirot's probing fingers. He lives. A concussion, perhaps. Lady Harlow, water s'il vous plaît. Harlow fetched a glass from a nearby pitcher, her hand steady despite her pallor. Thorne stirred as Poirot splashed his face, groaning as he clutched his head. "What? Where am I?" "Safe, Doctor," Poirot said. "But explain. How did you fall in a locked room?" Thorne blinked, disoriented. "I was studying a papyrus fragment from Cairo. Heard a creak, then blackness. Someone struck me." Blackwood scanned the room, windows barred, curtains untouched, no other exits. "Impossible. The door was bolted. No one entered." Flint examined the bolt. Intact, no signs of tampering. Either Thorne's lying, or we've got a ghost. Poirot's mustache twitched. "Ghosts do not wield blunt objects, Colonel. Observe the room, order, and method. The papyrus, Doctor. Where is it?" Thorne gestured weakly to the desk, but the fragment was gone. In its place lay a single black feather. Itself, its myth lingers. "Doctor, your injury. Superficial, no? A glancing blow." Thorne nodded, wincing. "Feels like a tap, not a club." Poirot turned to the group. The assailant needed Thorne unconscious briefly. The room sealed to delay discovery. But how to enter and exit a locked chamber? Flint grunted. "Ventilation? Secret passage?" Poirot inspected the fireplace. Cold, no ash. The vents were too narrow for a human. Then his eyes caught a faint irregularity in the wall panel beside the desk. Pressing it, a section slid open, revealing a narrow chute barely wide enough for a child or a slender accomplice. Voila! A dumbwaiter, disused but functional. "It descends to the kitchen," Rousseau whistled. "Clever." Someone slid in, knocked Thorne out, took the papyrus, and escaped, bolting the door from inside before vanishing down the chute. Blackwood's face darkened. "The kitchen staff. Jem again?" Poirot shook his head. "No, Jem is detained. But another, perhaps. Let us descend." They hurried to the kitchen, finding it empty save for a scullery maid, who swore no one had passed through. The dumbwaiter's lower hatch was ajar, a smudge of boot polish on its edge. Poirot sniffed it. Recent. And this. He plucked a thread of green silk caught in the hinge. "Madame Harlow, your gown." Harlow paled, touching her sleeve where a tear matched the thread. I was in my room, changing after brunch. This is impossible." Poirot's voice was gentle but firm. "Yet the evidence accuses. Explain, or the gray cells must judge." Under his piercing gaze, Harlow crumpled. "I didn't strike him. I used the chute earlier, exploring, curious about old passages. I found nothing, returned to my room. Someone must have taken my torn silk to frame me." Flint scoffed. "Convenient. You were quick to fetch water, checking your handiwork." She glared. "I'm no thief," loomed larger still. Chapter 6. Echoes of Betrayal. The storm descended on Blackthorn Manor like a vengeful deity, its winds howling through the Devon cliffs and rattling the ancient windows. Hercule Poirot stood by a leaded pane in the drawing room, watching lightning fracture the sky, each flash illuminating the unresolved threads of the weekend's mysteries. The locked room riddle had been unraveled, Dr. Thorne's attacker exposed as a diversion, Yet the stolen papyrus and the elusive Ouroboros amulet fueled Poirot's restless intellect. The guests, shaken but resolute, had gathered for an impromptu séance proposed by Madame Ophelia Grimshaw, who claimed the tempest's fury demanded spiritual answers. The drawing room was transformed, heavy drapes drawn, candles flickering in a circle on a rosewood table. Madame Grimshaw sat at its head, her raven cane propped like a scepter, her veiled eyes glinting with fervor. "The spirits are restless," she intoned, voice like dry leaves. "They speak of betrayal, echoes from Cairo, trapped in this storm." Elias Blackwood, his silver hair disheveled by the day's chaos, frowned. "Ophelia, your theatrics are wearing thin. We need facts, not phantoms." Colonel Marcus Flint, nursing a brandy, snorted. "Let her play her game. If it points to the papyrus thief, I'm game." Lady Vivian Harlow, her emerald gown swapped for somber black, adjusted her shawl. "After that locked room farce, I'll entertain anything." "But spirits. Really, darling," Victor Russo, sketching nervously in the corner, muttered. "In Vienna, séances are for swindlers. But I'll watch Poirot, seated with impeccable posture, observed silently, his little gray cells attuned to the room's undercurrents." Miss Eliza Croft, under house arrest with Jem Hargrove, was absent, but her earlier plot lingered like a sour note. "Madame Grimshaw," Poirot said. "Proceed. But no spirits are man-made." Grimshaw froze, her veil trembling. Flint snatched the cane, inspecting it. "Bloody hell, a transmitter. Who's on the other end?" Russo's eyes darted. "Not me." "I'm no electrician." Harlow's laugh was brittle. "Ophelia, you old fraud. Staging a haunting to what? Scare us into confessing?" Poirot's mustache quivered. "No, not confession. Distraction. Madame, you know of Cairo's secrets. Speak, or the gray cells will unravel you." Under his piercing gaze, Grimshaw sagged, her mystique crumbling. "Fine. I rigged the speaker, old trick from my Edinburgh days, but I swear it wasn't malice. I was hired, anonymously, to stir fear. Letters came, like yours, Poirot, promising payment to unsettle the group." Blackwood's face reddened. "Hired? By whom?" She shook her head. "No name. Money and instructions left in my room, under the door, last night. They wanted chaos, to flush out the papyrus thief." Thorne, recovered but pale, adjusted his spectacles. "Cairo again. That dig. We were all there. My partner, Evelyn Blackwood, Elias's sister, died in that sandstorm. I always suspected sabotage." Blackwood's voice cracked. "Evelyn's death was an accident. The tomb collapsed. We mourned her." Flint slammed his glass down. "Accident?" "I heard whispers. Someone tampered with the supports. Evelyn was after the amulet's profits, like Croft claimed. Maybe someone wanted her silenced." Harlow's eyes narrowed. "You, Marcus? You forged alibis in Cairo, admitted it. Did you sabotage the dig?" Flint roared, "I'm no murderer." "I took funds, yes, to protect our team from local bandits. Evelyn's death was bad luck." Poirot raised a hand. Silence. Accusations fly like lightning, but we seek truth. Madame Grimshaw, these payments. Describe the envelope, your accounts. Plant evidence, and use Madame Grimshaw's talents to sow discord, keeping us from the papyrus and the amulet. Thorne clutched his head. The papyrus. It named the tomb's guardian, a local who vanished. If we find it, we find the thief. Grimshaw, chastened, offered. The spirits? No. My intuition. Point to the attic. I sensed movement there last night. Poirot led the charge, the group ascending creaky stairs to the attic, a cavern of cobwebs and forgotten relics. Amid crates, Poirot spotted a glint, a silver cigarette case, monogrammed E.B., Evelyn Blackwood. Inside, a folded note, not the papyrus, but a bank receipt for £10,000, withdrawn by an unknown party, dated post-Cairo. Embezzlement, Poirot declared. Evelyn's funds, siphoned after her death. The thief uses this to manipulate, hiring Grimshaw, framing Rousseau. Blackwood clutched the case, tears welling. Evelyn's. I thought it lost. This heals a wound. Proof she wasn't forgotten. Flint growled. But who's the puppeteer? Not Croft or Jem. They're locked up. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Patience. The storm clears, and so will the truth. For now, the fraud is exposed, the funds returned. As rain softened to a patter, the group descended. Grimshaw's deceit laid bare. Blackwood's guilt eased. The attic's find, a tangible link to Evelyn, offered closure, mending a sibling rift across time. Poirot watched the manor settle, the seance's echoes silenced. A satisfying pause in the tempest of treachery. Chapter 7. The Phantom Pursuit. The storm had retreated from Blackthorn Manor, leaving a crystalline night where stars pierced the sky like accusations. Hercule Poirot stood at his chamber window, the air sharp with the tang of salt from the nearby cliffs. The seance's unmasking, Madame Grimshaw's fraudulent speaker, the embezzled funds tied to Evelyn Blackwood, had peeled back another layer of the manor's mysteries. Yet the stolen papyrus, hinting at the Ouroboros amulet's resting place, remained elusive, and Poirot, gripping his cane, he ascended, emerging into a long gallery lined with portraits. Blackwood ancestors, their painted eyes tracking his progress. At the far end, the figure appeared again, a cloaked silhouette, draped in white, gliding toward a tapestry depicting a serpent devouring its tail. The Ouroboros again. Poirot's pulse quickened. "Arrêtez," he called, his voice a whip crack in the stillness. The figure froze, then darted behind the tapestry. Poirot pursued, his compact frame surprisingly swift. He swept the heavy fabric aside, revealing a concealed door, its hinges oiled and silent. Beyond lay a network of passages, their stone walls damp and moss-slick, lit by flickering sconces. The air was thick with the must of centuries, and the lavender scent grew stronger. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured. A labyrinth within the manor, the perfect stage for a phantom. He navigated the twisting corridors, guided by the faint rustle of fabric ahead. The passage sloped downward, then opened into a vaulted chamber, its walls carved with runes resembling the serpent crest. In the center stood a wooden crate, its lid ajar, spilling papers, maps, letters, and a single photograph of the 1923 Cairo dig. Evelyn Blackwood smiling beside a younger Elias. The phantom, a figure in a white cloak, rummaged through the crate, oblivious to Poirot's approach. He cleared his throat. "Bonsoir, phantom," or shall I say, servant of the shadows. The figure whirled, hood falling to reveal Hargrove, the butler, his parchment face flushed with panic. In his hands, a bundle of documents, their edges singed as if narrowly saved from fire. "Monsieur Poirot, I was inspecting a leak." Poirot's mustache twitched. "A leak, monsieur? In a cloak, at midnight, with documents from Cairo? No, you are no mere butler. Explain, or I summon the household." Hargrove sagged, clutching the papers. "I meant no harm. These are Evelyn's. Letters she wrote before the dig collapsed. I was her confidant, you see. She suspected treachery. Someone sabotaged Colonel Flint, Lady Vivian Harlow, and Dr. Thorne. Their faces a mix of suspicion and fatigue." "Poirot!" Blackwood exclaimed. "What's this?" Poirot held up the letter. "A discovery, monsieur. Your butler Hargrove is no phantom, but a guardian of truth. These documents, your sister's words, implicate Colonel Flint in Cairo's tragedy." Flint's scarred face reddened. "Lies! Evelyn was paranoid, scribbling nonsense. I took funds, yes, but sabotage, never." Harlow's eyes gleamed. "Marcus, you admitted forging alibis. What's one more sin?" Thorne adjusted his spectacles. "The papyrus I lost. It mentioned a saboteur. This fits." Poirot raised a hand. "Silence. Colonel, your denials ring hollow. Hargrove, why the cloak tonight?" The butler hesitated. "The cipher, it spooked me. I thought the mastermind was closing in, wanting these papers destroyed. I dressed to slip through the manor unseen." Blackwood clutched the photograph, his voice breaking. "Evelyn's handwriting. I never knew she suspected Marcus. Hargrove, why not tell me?" "Fear, sir," Hargrove said, "and loyalty to her memory. I failed her in Cairo. Couldn't fail her now." Poirot's gaze softened. "You are no villain, Hargrove, but misguided. These documents, vital evidence, must be secured. Colonel Flint, you will face scrutiny, but not tonight." Flint growled but stepped back, cowed by Poirot's authority. Blackwood took the papers, his hands trembling. "These clear Evelyn's name. She wasn't reckless. Thank you, Poirot." The group returned to the main house, Hargrove leading the way, his phantom guise discarded. In the drawing room, they pored over the letters, each a piece of Cairo's puzzle. Maps of the tomb, Evelyn's warnings, hints of a rival expedition. The photograph showed a younger Flint, his arm around Evelyn, a smile that now seemed predatory, like the mysteries unraveling around him. The phantom pursuit in the manor's hidden passages had exposed Hargrove's guardianship of Evelyn Blackwood's damning letters, implicating Colonel Marcus Flint in Cairo's treachery. Yet the stolen papyrus, key to the Ouroboros amulet's location, remained missing, and Poirot sensed the true orchestrator of the weekend's chaos lurked among the guests, weaving deception like a spider its web. The breakfast table was a tense tableau. Elias Blackwood, his silver hair mussed, stared into his coffee. Lady Vivian Harlow, radiant despite the hour, nibbled a scone. Dr. Reginald Thorne scribbled notes on a napkin, his brow furrowed. And Victor Rousseau, subdued, toyed with a grapefruit. Madame Ophelia Grimshaw, her seance fraud exposed, sat quietly, her raven cane a silent rebuke. Colonel Flint, under scrutiny, glowered at his plate, while Miss Eliza Croft, released from confinement but watched closely, scribbled in her notebook, her journalist's zeal undimmed. Poirot's eyes met Croft's across the table. "Mademoiselle Croft," he said, his voice a velvet blade. Your pen is tireless. Perhaps you assist Hercule Poirot today. A mind as sharp as yours could untangle alibis. Croft's red hair caught the light as she grinned. A scoop with the great detective? Count me in, Monsieur Poirot. I'm done with schemes. Let's catch the real villain. Blackwood raised an eyebrow. Eliza, after your garden stunt, you're bold to play hero. She shrugged. I was wrong, but I'm not the mastermind. Someone's pulling strings. Those letters prove it. Flint growled. Watch your accusations, girl. I'm no saboteur. Poirot raised a hand. Peace, Colonel. Mademoiselle Croft and I shall investigate the alibis from Cairo. Each of you, provide your whereabouts on the night of the Diggs collapse, February 17th, 1923. Harlow laughed, her voice like a trill. A detective duo? Delightful. I was in my tent, darling, practicing expedition records from Blackwood's shelves, cross-referencing dates. Here, she said, pointing to a faded ledger. Thorne's logbook, his assistant's signature. Legit. But Rousseau's market trip? No receipts. Poirot nodded. And the Colonel's guard duty. Jenkins' death is suspicious timing. Let us probe further. They summoned Rousseau, whose nervous fidgeting betrayed unease. Monsieur Rousseau, Poirot said, your market alibi lacks proof. Yet Evelyn's letters mention a Viennese shadow skulking near the tomb. You? Rousseau's face paled. I was in the market, I swear. But I did meet a contact that night. A fence for artifacts. Small deal. Nothing about the amulet. Croft's pen paused. A fence? Name him, Rousseau swallowed. Karl Metz. He vanished after Cairo, likely dead. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Another ghost witness. But your ledger, found last night, it lists payments to KM. Were these for Metz? Rousseau stammered. Yes, but for paintings, not amulets. Someone planted that ledger to frame me. Croft flipped through her notes. The sandalwood scent on Grimshaw's envelope, your cologne. Too many coincidences, Victor. Under Poirot's unrelenting gaze, Rousseau cracked. All right, I lied about the market. I was near the tomb, delivering funds to Metz for a side deal, minor relics. I saw Flint arguing with Evelyn, not guarding. But I didn't sabotage anything. Poirot steepled his fingers. A half-truth, monsieur. Your confession clears one thread but ties another. Colonel Flint's alibi falters. They confronted Flint in the conservatory, where he was inspecting orchids with forced calm. Colonel, Poirot said, Rousseau places you with Evelyn, not at your post. Your forged Cairo alibi, now this. Speak. Flint's scarred cheek twitched. Damn telegram. From my old contact in Cairo. Metz is alive, running a gallery in Alexandria. Rousseau's story might check out. Poirot's eyes sparkled. Formidable, a living witness. We cable Metz later. For now, Flint's truth restores trust, a step toward clarity. The group reconvened for luncheon, the atmosphere lighter despite lingering suspicions. Flint's confession, though painful, had mended a fracture with Blackwood, who clasped his shoulder. We move forward, Marcus. For Evelyn Croft whispered to Poirot. "We make a good team, monsieur." "What's next?" "Patience, mademoiselle," Poirot replied. "The papyrus awaits, and the amulet's shadow grows. Our alliance strengthens, but adversaries watch." As plates were cleared, the manor hummed with renewed camaraderie. Flint's minor fraud exposed, the group rallied around shared purpose to unmask the true saboteur. Poirot and Croft's partnership had borne fruit, their victory a beacon of progress, a satisfying pause in the unfolding drama, though the amulet's curse whispered of battles yet to come. Chapter 9. The Poisoned Chalice. The dining hall of Blackthorn Manor gleamed under the chandelier's prismatic glow. Its long mahogany table set for a banquet that promised to rival the feasts of Versailles. Hercule Poirot adjusted his bow tie, his little gray cells humming with the weight of recent revelations. The alliance with Miss Eliza Croft had unraveled Colonel Flint's false Cairo alibi, exposing his absence during the fatal 1923 dig collapse. Yet the stolen papyrus, the key to the Ouroboros amulet, remained elusive, and Poirot sensed the true puppeteer of the manor's intrigues was tightening their strings. Tonight's banquet, hosted by Elias Blackwood to restore unity, shimmered with both opulence and unease. The table groaned under silver platters of roast pheasant, truffled potatoes, and decanters of ruby-red Bordeaux. Elias Blackwood stood at the head, his silver hair catching the candlelight like a halo. "Friends," he began, raising a crystal goblet, "despite our trials, let us toast to truth. Thanks to Monsieur Poirot, we edge closer to resolving Cairo's shadows." Lady Vivian Harlow, resplendent in sapphire silk, clapped delicately. "To truth, darling, though it stings like a badly sung aria." Dr. Reginald Thorne, his spectacles glinting, nodded. "And to Evelyn's memory, her letters guide us still." Victor Rousseau, subdued but elegant, raised his glass hesitantly. Madame Ophelia Grimshaw, her séance fraud forgiven, murmured a blessing, her raven cane at rest. Colonel Flint, his confession a fresh wound, drank deeply, his scarred face grim. Miss Croft, reinstated as an ally, scribbled notes discreetly, her red hair a beacon in the glow. Poirot sipped his wine, his senses razor-sharp. The Bordeaux rosé was exquisite, its bouquet rich. But as he swirled the glass, a faint, acrid note stung his nose. Not the wine's profile. He froze, his gaze sweeping the table. The others' scandals stirred old rivals. Thorne adjusted his glasses. Cyanide subtle, easy to slip into a decanter during the chaos of last night's séance. Rousseau fidgeted, his ring glinting. "Not me. I've been framed once already. Sandalwood, ledgers. This is the same game." Grimshaw's voice rasped. "The spirits warned of venom in our midst. A jealous heart strikes." Poirot's mustache twitched. "Jealousy, oui, but also calculation. The poisoner knew the seating. Madame Harlow's place was fixed. Observe the decanter seal, intact, but a needle mark suggests injection. A servant, perhaps?" Hargrove returned, distributing water and bicarbonate to neutralize any ingested toxin. The guests sipped cautiously, their faces a gallery of fear and suspicion. Poirot paced, his cane tapping like a metronome. "Let us reconstruct. The banquet was prepared this afternoon. Who had access to the cellar? Blackwood frowned. Only Hargrove and the kitchen staff. Jem's detained, but others? Flint growled. Check the staff. Someone's been bought, like Grimshaw was. Poirot's eyes narrowed. No, the staff are loyal, or too timid. The poisoner is among us, a guest with motive and opportunity. Madame Harlow, your Milan rival, any here? Harlow hesitated. Lillian Duval, a soprano I outshone. She's not here, but her brother Claude is. He's intense. All eyes turned to a latecomer at the table's end, Claude Duval, a wiry man with a sallow face and darting eyes, introduced as a French diplomat, but quiet until now. He stood, his voice sharp. Absurd. I'm here for trade talks, not revenge. Vivienne's old news. Poirot stepped closer, his voice velvet steel. Monsieur Duval, your arrival coincided with the cipher. Your diplomatic bag, unsearched, oui? A perfect vessel for cyanide. Duval hand. No, madame. The dose was small, discomfort, not death. A theatrical gesture, like Christie's own plots. Monsieur Duval, you are the jealous rival's pawn. Blackwood seized the vial. Claude, you're done. Police will handle you. Duval's shoulders slumped. I didn't mean harm. Lillian's obsession. She pushed me. Thorne muttered, like the amulet's curse, jealousy poisons us all. Grimshaw's cane tapped. The spirits foresaw this, a chalice of spite. Poirot addressed the group. The poison is neutralized, the culprit caught. Let us resume the feast with fresh wine. Madame Harlow, your health is restored. The banquet continued, new decanters brought under Hargrove's watchful eye. Laughter returned, tentative but genuine, as Harlow recounted arias to lighten the mood. Duval was confined to a guest room, awaiting authorities, his confession a bitter aftertaste. Blackwood toasted Poirot. To your gray cells, our savior once more. Croft leaned close, whispering, Claude's small fry, like me. The amulet's mastermind is still out there. Poirot nodded. Oui, mademoiselle. The chalice is cleansed, but the amulet's shadow looms. As the candles burned low, the manor buzzed with relief. The poison's threat dissolved like sugar in wine. Harlow's vibrancy returned, her voice a balm to frayed nerves. The chapter closed with a feast reclaimed, Duval's petty plot foiled, a satisfying triumph, though the amulet's curse whispered of greater perils ahead. Chapter 10. Labyrinth of Lies. The library of Blackthorn Manor was a sanctuary of shadows, its towering shelves heavy with leather-bound tomes that whispered of secrets older than the cliffs outside. Hercule Poirot sat at a polished oak table, his little gray cells weaving through the weekend's tapestry of deceit. The poisoned chalice at the banquet, unmasked as Claude Duval's vengeful act for his sister's ruined career, had tightened the noose around the manor's mystic. The threads fray. Let us summon them. Confront the contradictions. The guests assembled reluctantly, their faces a gallery of wariness under the library's chandelier. Elias Blackwood stood by the hearth, his silver hair catching the firelight. Lady Vivienne Harlow, in crimson velvet, lounged with forced ease. Dr. Reginald Thorne adjusted his spectacles, his fingers ink-stained. Victor Rousseau fidgeted with his ring, while Madame Ophelia Grimshaw's veiled gaze darted nervously. Colonel Marcus Flint, his confession of a forged alibi still raw, crossed his arms defiantly. Claude Duval, confined but allowed to attend under watch, sulked in a corner. Poirot rose, his compact frame commanding. Mes amis, the lies of Cairo strangle us like vines. The papyrus theft, the amulet's lure, they stem from that fatal dig. Your alibis crumble. Dr. Thorne, your logbook, gaps where you claimed diligence. Explain. Thorne bristled. A clerical error. My assistant was sloppy. Dead now, can't confirm. Croft interjected. Convenient. The gaps cover the hour of the collapse, midnight to 1 a.m. Where were you? Thorne's jaw tightened. In my tent, cross-referencing hieroglyphs. Alone, Poirot turned to Blackwood. Monsieur, you argued with Evelyn, yet no record. Why? Blackwood's voice was low. It was private. Family matters. She wanted to sell the amulet. I refused. I left her at the tomb entrance. Alive. Flint snorted. You left her to die, Elias. I saw you storm off. Rousseau did too. Rousseau nodded. I was nearby, dealing with Metz. You and Evelyn were shouting. Then silence. Harlow's laugh cut through. All so noble, yet someone sabotaged the tomb. Who benefits from Evelyn's death? Grimshaw's cane tapped. The spirits point to greed, a hidden hand profiting from chaos. Poirot paced, his cane a rhythmic counterpoint. Greed, oui, but also fear. The papyrus named a saboteur. Forward. That worker, Hassan, he disappeared. I thought it was fear of the curse. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Or silenced. Mes amis, the lies interlock. One among you was not where you claimed, and Hassan's shadow accuses. Duval, silent until now, sneered. Why not Flint? His alibi's already rubbish. Flint lunged, but Blackwood restrained him. Enough, Marcus. Poirot, who? Poirot's voice was steel. Dr. Thorne. Your gaps, your expertise in tomb structures, you studied their weaknesses. The papyrus, stolen from your room, named Hassan. You were not cataloging, you were at the tomb. Thorne's face drained of color. Preposterous! I'm a scholar, not a killer. Croft held up a letter from the logs, its seal broken. This is yours, Thorne, to Hassan, promising payment to secure the site. Dated the day before the collapse. The room froze. Thorne stammered. That was for repairs. The tomb was unstable. Poirot stepped closer, his gaze unrelenting. Non, doctor. You paid Hassan to weaken the supports, ensuring a collapse to hide the amulet's theft. Evelyn suspected, confronted you. You silenced her, then took the papyrus to bury the truth. Thorne collapsed into a chair, sweat beading. I didn't mean for her to die. I wanted the amulet, for science, for history. Hassan was to scare her off, not kill her. The storm, it was bad luck. Blackwood's voice broke. You murdered my sister. Thorne sobbed. An accident. I took the papyrus to protect my name. I'm sorry. Elias Harlow's voice was ice. You let us chase ghosts while you hid the truth. Grimshaw whispered. The spirits mourn, but justice rises. Poirot signaled Hargrove, who stood guard. Detain Dr. Thorne. The police will verify his confession. Flint shook his head. Bloody hell, Reggie. All for a relic? Rousseau exhaled. The amulet's curse, real or not, it ruins us. Croft closed her notebook. Glow. His little gray cells weaving the threads of the weekend's intrigues into a taut tapestry. Dr. Reginald Thorne's confession in the library. His accidental murder of Evelyn Blackwood during the 1923 Cairo dig had shattered the group's fragile unity, exposing the rot of greed beneath their polished facades. Yet the stolen papyrus, the key to the Ouroboros amulet, remained elusive, and Poirot sensed the true mastermind, the puppet master of threats and ciphers, was poised for a final move. The afternoon sun cast long shadows, heralding a game of wits that would test even his formidable intellect. Elias Blackwood, his silver hair disheveled, summoned the guests to the conservatory, its glass walls framing a riot of orchids and ferns. "We've unmasked a killer," he said, his voice heavy. "But the amulet's shadow lingers." "Poirot, what now?" Lady Vivian Harlow, her crimson gown a stark contrast to the greenery, sipped tea with forced calm. "Darling, this feels like chess. Each move calculated. But by whom?" Colonel Marcus Flint, his scarred face grim, leaned against a palm. "Thorne's locked up, but someone's still pulling strings. Those threats, letters, ciphers, weren't his." Victor Russo, his art dealer's poise fraying, nodded. "I'm tired of being framed. First my ledger, now this. Who's left?" Madame Ophelia Grimshaw, her veil discarded, clutched her raven cane. The spirit's whisper of a final reckoning. A player unseen. Miss Eliza Croft, Poirot's unlikely ally, flipped open her notebook. "Monsieur Poirot, the logs mention a second expedition in Cairo. Rivals who vanished. Could they be behind this?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his eyes gleaming like polished jet. "Formidable, mademoiselle. A rival faction, perhaps, orchestrating chaos to reclaim the amulet. Let us play their game, a gambit to draw them out." He proposed a trap. Stage a public revelation, planting a decoy papyrus, a meticulous forgery crafted from Thorne's notes, in the vault's false panel. The real vault, a steel chamber beneath the manor, was rigged with a silent alarm, its key entrusted to Hargrove, the butler, now a loyal ally. As midnight approached, the group assembled in the cellar, a damp labyrinth lit by flickering torches. The vault's door loomed, its lock gleaming like a challenge. Poirot scanned the faces, Blackwood's resolve, Harlow's curiosity, Flint's suspicion, Russo's unease, Grimshaw's murmurs, Croft's eager pen. Hargrove turned the key, the vault creaking open. Inside, shelves held deeds and relics, but all eyes were on the false panel. Poirot opened it, revealing the decoy papyrus, a parchment marked with Ouroboros symbols. "Behold, the key to the amulet." Before anyone could react, a figure lunged from the shadows, a woman, cloaked in black, her face obscured by a scarf. She snatched the papyrus, bolting for a side passage. Flint roared, giving chase, but Poirot's voice halted him. "No, Colonel, the trap is sprung." He pressed a hidden switch, triggering a gate that slammed shut, trapping the woman. The scarf fell, revealing Lillian Duval, the soprano whose grudge against Harlow had sparked Claude's poisoning attempt. Her eyes blazed with defiance. "You've nothing on me." Poirot stepped forward, his cane a scepter. "Madame Duval, your entrance is dramatic, but your game is over. You orchestrated the threats, the cipher, the thefts, to reclaim the amulet your expedition lost in Cairo." Lillian sneered. "Prove it, detective." Croft held up her notebook. "Your brother's confession mentioned your obsession, and this—" She produced a telegram, intercepted by Hargrove. "From Alexandria, to you, confirming Metz's role in funding your schemes." Blackwood's voice trembled. "Lillian, you were in Cairo, a rival dig. You blamed us for your failure." Lillian's composure cracked. "You stole our find." "The amulet was ours, my decoy papyrus." Relief washing over him. "Poirot, you've saved us again." Croft grinned, scribbling. "This'll sell papers. Soprano's scheme foiled." The group ascended to the drawing room, the manor's oppressive air lifting. Lillian was confined, her plot dismantled piece by piece. The guests shared brandy, toasting Poirot's brilliance. Harlow sang an impromptu aria, her voice a balm to frayed nerves. Flint apologized to Blackwood, their rift softened by shared survival. Poirot stood by the fire, reflecting. The gambit had succeeded. Lillian's alliance with Metz and her manipulation of the manor's chaos exposed. The papyrus's true location remained a mystery, but the extortion's end restored order, a satisfying checkmate in the game of shadows, though the amulet's curse whispered of one final revelation. Chapter 12. Revelations at Dawn. The first light of dawn crept over the cliffs of Devon, painting Blackthorn Manor's turrets in hues of rose and gold, as if the sun itself sought to banish the shadows of deceit that had plagued the weekend. Hercule Poirot stood on the balcony overlooking the gardens, his little gray cells ablaze with the clarity of a new day. The ultimate gambit in the conservatory had ensnared Lillian Duval, the vengeful soprano whose machinations, threatening letters, hired frauds, and staged thefts had orchestrated chaos to reclaim the Ouroboros amulet. Yet the papyrus, stolen from Dr. Thorne's locked room, remained a phantom, its secrets tied to the amulet's resting place. Poirot sensed one final thread dangled, a revelation poised to unravel the last of Cairo's mysteries. Inside, the guests gathered in the drawing room, their faces etched with exhaustion but flickering with hope. Elias Blackwood, his silver hair catching the morning light, clutched Evelyn's cigarette case, a relic of his sister's lost dreams. Lady Vivian Harlow, in a dawn-blue gown, sipped coffee with a performer's poise. Colonel Marcus Flint, his scarred cheek less tense, cleaned his pistol absent-mindedly. Victor Rousseau, cleared of suspicion, sketched the worker who vanished. But there's a name missing from Cairo's records. A financier, listed only as A.R. Rousseau's pencil snapped. A.R. Not me. My initials, but I was a buyer, not a backer. Flint grunted. More ghosts? I'm tired of chasing shadows. Grimshaw's voice rasped, the spirit's whisper of hidden wealth, a hand that funded betrayal. Poirot's mustache twitched, his gaze sweeping the room like a lighthouse beam. Précisément, madame. The financier, A.R., funded the rival dig, Lillian's team. Their failure fueled her vendetta. But A.R.'s role was buried, like the amulet itself. Let us unearth it. He produced a small key, found in Lillian's confiscated belongings, a delicate brass piece engraved with a serpent's coil. This, from Madame Duval, unlocks a truth. Hargrove, the manor's archives, where are they? The butler, ever loyal since his phantom unmasking, led them to a locked study, its shelves stuffed with ledgers from Blackwood's enterprises. The key fit a hidden drawer in a rosewood desk, revealing a leather-bound journal marked Cairo, 1923. Its pages, in Evelyn's hand, detailed the dig's funding. Elias, Thorne, and an anonymous donor. A.R. Blackwood's face paled. Evelyn never mentioned A.R. Who were they? Croft scanned the journal, her journalist's instinct flaring. Here, a note. A.R. demands control, threatens exposure. Sounds like blackmail. Poirot's eyes gleamed. A financier with leverage, oui. And one present today, hiding in plain sight. He turned to Rousseau. Monsieur, your art dealings. Profitable, non? Enough to fund a dig? Rousseau's hands shook. I told you I bought relics, not backed digs. I'm no A.R. Harlow's voice cut through. Victor, you're sweating like a debutante before her first aria. Spill it. Under Poirot's unyielding gaze, Rousseau crumpled, his Viennese charm dissolving. All right. Her Poirot raised a hand. Non, monsieur. Thorne's sabotage, spurred by A.R.'s pressure, caused the tragedy. Victor sought redemption, not revenge. The papyrus is recovered, the financier exposed. Grimshaw murmured, The spirits find peace. Truth lights the dawn. Harlow toasted with her coffee. To Poirot, unraveling our mess like a perfect score. Flint nodded grudgingly. You're a bloody marvel, Poirot. Rousseau, you're lucky it's not my court-martial. Croft grinned, scribbling. This'll be the story of the year. Amulet's curse cracked. Poirot addressed Rousseau. Monsieur, your theft was foolish, but your heart sought honor. The police will decide your fate, but your father's shadow lifts. Blackwood clasped the papyrus, his voice steady. Evelyn's legacy is restored. Thank you, Poirot. Hargrove escorted Rousseau to a guarded room, pending authorities. The guests lingered, the dawn's light flooding the manor with warmth. The papyrus's recovery, coupled with A.R.'s unmasking, healed old wounds. Evelyn's warnings validated. Blackwood's grief softened. The group shared breakfast, laughter mingling with relief, a fragile unity forged in truth. Poirot stepped back to the balcony, gazing at the rising sun. The financier's role, buried for decades, had surfaced, dismantling Lillian's vendetta and Thorne's guilt. Yet the amulet itself remained lost, its tomb a distant enigma. For now the manor stood serene, the revelations a beacon of closure, a satisfying dawn in the clash of secrets, though one final thread, the amulet's resting place, whispered of a last reckoning. Chapter 13, The Fierce Confrontation. The midday sun blazed over Blackthorn Manor, its rays piercing the grand hall's stained glass windows and casting a mosaic of fiery colors across the marble floor. Hercule Poirot stood at the hall's center, his impeccable suit a stark contrast to the turmoil that had gripped the weekend. The dawn's revelations, Victor Rousseau's theft of the papyrus, driven by his father Arthur's legacy, as gripped her raven cane tightly. Miss Eliza Croft, Poirot's journalistic ally, scribbled furiously, her red hair catching the light. Victor Rousseau, under watch but present, fidgeted with his ring, his confession a fresh wound. Claude Duval and Dr. Reginald Thorne, detained, were absent, their roles in the saga sealed. Poirot's voice rang out, clear as a bell. Mes amis, the hour of truth has come. The papyrus is ours, the amulet's tomb revealed. A cavern beneath Cairo's sands, guarded by Hassan's clan. But one among us has woven this web of deceit, pulling strings from Cairo to this hall. Today, Hercule Poirot unmasks the architect of chaos. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. Lillian Duval's detained, Thorns confessed, Rousseau's cleared his name. Who's left, Poirot? Harlow's laugh was a delicate chime. Darling, don't tell me we've another snake in this garden. Croft looked up from her notebook. The papyrus mentions Hassan's clan, but also a broker, someone who bridged the rival digs. Not A.R., not Lillian. Someone here? Flint grunted. Enough riddles. Name the bastard. Grimshaw's cane tapped softly. The spirit's murmur of a silent hand, guiding from the edges. Poirot's mustache twitched, his gaze sweeping the hall like a searchlight. Précisément, madame. The broker, neither financier nor thief, but a manipulator who profited from both. One who knew every secret, every grudge, and used them to orchestrate this clash. He paused, turning to Hargrove, the butler, who stood discreetly by the door. Monsieur Hargrove, step forward. The room gasped. Hargrove's parchment face paled, his stoic demeanor cracking. Me, sir? I'm but a servant. Poirot's voice was steel. Non, monsieur, just a scare. Collapse the tomb, steal the amulet. When she died, I stayed to atone, serving Elias, protecting her legacy. Croft's pen paused. You hid the papyrus in the chandelier, didn't you? Not Rousseau. Hargrove nodded. I took it from Thorne's room, to keep it from Lillian. I wanted the truth to surface, but not her way. Poirot stepped closer, his gaze unrelenting. A noble motive, twisted by deceit. You orchestrated the threats, hired Grimshaw, framed Rousseau, used Duval's jealousy. The amulet was your bait, drawing all to this confrontation. Grimshaw murmured, The spirits sensed your burden, Hargrove. Redemption comes in truth. Blackwood's voice broke. You betrayed my sister, my family. Why? Hargrove fell to his knees. I loved Evelyn, sir. Not as a servant, but as a man. She never knew. When she died, I broke. I manipulated this weekend to expose Thorne, to clear her name. Forgive me. Rousseau's voice was soft. You used my father's name to stir the pot. Cruel, but effective. Poirot raised a hand. Enough. Monsieur Hargrove, your confession closes the circle. The amulet's tomb is safe, its curse broken by truth. The police will judge you, but your heart speaks of remorse. Flint seized Hargrove's arm, his grip firm but not cruel. You're done, old man. Let's go. Blackwood clutched the papyrus, tears falling. Evelyn's death avenged, her honor restored. Poirot, you've given me peace. Harlow's voice was warm. A masterful performance, detective. The hall applauds you. Croft grinned, scribbling. This is Pulitzer material. Butler's betrayal unraveled. As Hargrove was led away, the hall seemed to breathe, its oppressive air lifting. The guests gathered by the windows watching manipulations, driven by a twisted love for Evelyn Blackwood and a quest to expose her killer. The papyrus, recovered from the chandelier, had revealed the Ouroboros amulet's resting place, a forgotten tomb in Cairo's sands, to be left untouched in Evelyn's memory. Now, as the final chapter unfolded, Poirot prepared to deliver his denouement, weaving every thread into a tapestry of truth. The guests gathered in the hall, their faces a mosaic of relief and awe. Elias Blackwood stood by the grand staircase, his silver hair catching the light, Evelyn's cigarette case clutched like a talisman. Lady Vivian Harlow, resplendent in ivory silk, radiated a performer's grace. Colonel Marcus Flint, his military bluster softened, leaned against a pillar. Madame Ophelia Grimshaw, her mystic guise shed, sat with quiet dignity, her raven cane at rest. Miss Eliza Croft, Poirot's journalistic ally, poised her pen, her red hair a fiery crown. Victor Rousseau, exonerated but humbled, sketched the scene absently. Claude Duval, Dr. Reginald Thorne, and Hargrove were detained, their fates in the hands of justice, leaving the remaining guests to witness the final act. Poirot stepped forward, his voice a clarion call. Mes amis, the clash of Blackthorn Manor is resolved. The Ouroboros amulet, a symbol of greed and betrayal, has been laid to rest, its secrets safe. But the human heart, its follies and passions, demanded Hercule Poirot's gray cells to untangle this labyrinth. Let us review, with order and method, the symphony of truth. Blackwood's eyes glistened. Poirot, you've given me my sister back, her honor, her truth. Name the guilty, once and for all. Harlow's laugh was soft, like a note held in a quiet aria. Darling, your performance deserves a standing ovation. Lay it out, Croft grinned, her notebook open. This'll be the story of the century. Go on. Monsieur Poirot's ensuring the truth surfaced. His love for Evelyn twisted into manipulation, but his remorse was genuine. Grimshaw's voice rasped. The spirits guided you, Poirot, even if I faltered. Rousseau set down his sketch pad. My father's role, A.R., haunted me. You cleared his shadow, and mine Croft's pen flew. But the amulet, why leave it buried? Poirot's eyes gleamed. The amulet is no treasure, mademoiselle, but a curse. Its pursuit killed Evelyn, drove Thorne to murder, Lillian to vengeance, Hargrove to deceit. The papyrus, now in Monsieur Blackwood's hands, ensures its tomb remains sealed, a monument to lessons learned. Blackwood clutched the papyrus, his voice steady. Evelyn would want it so. No more blood for a relic. Harlow raised a glass of champagne, brought by a new footman. To Poirot, who turned our chaos into clarity. A toast to your gray cells! The group joined, glasses clinking, laughter rising like a melody. Flint saluted. Bloody well done, man. You've redeemed us sinners. Poirot bowed slightly. No, Colonel. You redeemed yourselves. By facing truth. The guilty, Thorne for murder, Lillian and Claude for extortion, Hargrove for manipulation. Face justice. The innocent, Rousseau, Croft, Grimshaw, find peace in honesty. And you, Monsieur Blackwood, carry Evelyn's legacy forward. Croft closed her notebook, smiling. I'm wiring this to the Gazette. Poirot's triumph, Manor mystery solved. You're a legend. Grimshaw's cane tapped gently. The spirits rest, and so do we. As the guests prepared to depart, the hall buzzed with farewells. Harlow embraced Blackwood, promising a duet at her next recital. Flint clasped Rousseau's shoulder, their old grudges buried. Croft, reinvigorated, planned her exposé, vowing to credit Poirot. Grimshaw, humbled, offered a quiet blessing. Blackwood, holding the papyrus, announced plans to all silent. The sun a golden seal on a story complete. A satisfying end, where intellect reigns supreme.